There was a time when it was difficult to raise even $10 million for Indian entrepreneurs. But today in India, you can raise $1 billion. We are very much on track to have 100 unicorns by 2025. This is a very interesting phase for the Indian startup ecosystem. And Rajan, I would like to understand from you, because you've been in this space and you've seen it over the years, over the last few years, is that while we are saying at one point, in one way that, hey, it's a great time to be an entrepreneur and do startup in India. But then there is this larger narrative that, oh, India has still not produced such great outcomes. So tell me, why are you bullish and what are some of the signals you are seeing?
Yeah, by the way, by the time India starts producing a large number of outcomes, it's going to be too late. That's what people kind of don't realize, right? So that's why timing is sort of really, really important. Look, I think we've entered a new phase of India's startup ecosystem. So I'm calling it, sort of Indian startup ecosystem 2.0, but the internet startup ecosystem. I mean, India is sort of thousands of years of entrepreneurship, right? So in many ways, a nation of entrepreneurs and startups. But when it comes to the sort of this era of startups, we've clearly entered this new, let's just call it the 2.0 phase, right? And it's characterized by a few things. The first is, when I joined Google in 2011, there were 10 million active Android users. Okay? Today, there are 400 million plus. So 10 million to 400 million. Now, when you have 400 million active Android users, that starts impacting everything, right? So if you had asked me a year ago, will you see a company like Book without any feet on the street, with 15 engineers, that could get 5 million Kirana shops to use a digital product? I would have said absolutely not, because it could have taken like thousands of salespeople, right? You'd have to have thousands of sales. What happened there? What happened there was Jio happened. All these merchants started buying Android phones. They all started getting connected. And when you actually build a product that works for them, they get on it and then they start using it. You have 3.5 million active merchants, right? So the first thing that has really happened is the user base has gotten very large. And it's started permeating all parts of society, right? It's not just the first 100 million users who are using the internet for what they're doing. So that's the first thing. And this is very profound. I think Book, what I've seen with Book is something I would have not predicted in a million years a year ago. Right? A year ago, right? I mean, think about it, 3.5 million. So that's the first thing. I think second, look, we're seeing the startup ecosystem broad base. Right? It used to be, it was consumer internet, it was e-commerce, a little bit of ride-hailing, and just a little bit of everything else, right? Today, actually, that's part of it. I mean, just in e-commerce, right? If you had asked me 3 years ago, will we see a new generation of e-commerce companies come and take the market by storm? You look at Flipkart and Amazon and some of the other players like Snapdeal, and you say, look, this game is sort of done. Meesho comes out of nowhere. Bulbul comes out of nowhere. SimSim comes out of nowhere, right? Social commerce. It's the next big thing, right? So even in traditional spaces like e-commerce, you look at, transport, right? You look at companies like Bounce and Rapido and so on. And then you've got this whole new wave or whole new set of sectors. Direct-to-consumer brands, right? I really do believe that we are now in an era over the next 10 years. We're going to see many billion-dollar new consumer brands that are going to get built because they're going to start with digital and then they're going to kind of expand into offline retail over some period of time, right? You look at SaaS. Today we have 3 SaaS unicorns. Nobody remembers this. Actually, 18 months ago we had 0, right? Freshwork was the first, Druva, then Icertis, and now we're at a clip of probably 1 or 2 SaaS unicorns a year. And then in 3 or 4 years, we'll get to 3 or 4 SaaS unicorns a year, right? You look at spaces like fintech. There are $30 billion NBFCs in India, publicly traded. Okay, now 30 was before the market corrected. Maybe that's 20. I don't know what the number is. But is there a reason why, Vijay was here? Vijay is going to be just gigantic company, $50, $100 billion, right? But can we see 20, $30 billion fintech companies in India? The answer is absolutely yes. So broad basing is also very, very important. And I think the third thing that's really, really profound is we're seeing founders who have a lot more experience. Naveen, who just spoke, said 60 Inmobiites have started companies. There are over 100, several hundred founders who actually came out of Flipkart. You look at Paytm, you look at Oyo, you look at Google, you look at Uber, right? And that's very profound because when somebody is actually seen, when a founder who's, let's say, spent 3 years, 5 years, 7 years at one of these unicorns, and they've lived through this journey of hyperscale, of blitzscaling, they just know a lot more. right? And as a result, they're able to build these. And so if you look at these and add on top of this the fact that going global as a consumer internet company is sort of okay now, right? Paytm's done it, Oyo's done it, Ola's doing it. So the idea of, if you're a consumer internet company, you have to only be in India is sort of an old idea, right? The new idea is you go global.
Yeah.
And some of our search companies are going global from day zero, consumer internet, not B2B, right? So when you look at all of these things, we've clearly entered a new era, and this era is just going to be bigger, it's going to be broader, it's going to be faster, and I think this 100 unicorns by 2025, which we started talking about sort of late last year, is going to happen.